I'm Cheryl Chumley. This is Bold and Blunt, giving you a Christian conservative view of news, politics, culture, and events. Gol Kalev from Israel, author of Judaism 3.0. I want to thank you for being on Bold and Blunt. It's great to see you again.
Great to see you too, Cheryl.
So I want to talk about how things are going in Israel as far as the war goes, but specific to you, let's talk about media narratives, because I know this is a hot point for you, as it should be for all of us in the media. I just saw that the UN Secretary General tried to draw some sort of moral equivalency between Israel and Hamas, talking about how the Palestinians have suffered under 56 years of Israel occupation. And he has seen some backlash, but he sort of epitomizes that moral equivalency that the media tries to draw, correct?
Absolutely. This is stunning, but it's not surprising. Look, Cheryl, the Jewish nation is under attack. And it's under attack both physically, as we see now with Hamas, but it's also under attack ideologically through Israel bashing and anti-Zionism. And that's been going on for a long time, and we're seeing that expression right now. Every time there's a large-scale assault on Judaism, which happens every few centuries, there's both the physical and the ideological. So, for example, in the last century, we had the Holocaust, which was the physical attempt to murder Jews. But that was dependent on the ideological assault on Judaism that was done through anti-Semitism, which was independent of it. There was anti-Semitism that was even before the Nazis. And we're seeing the exact same thing right now. There's this physical assault that we're enduring through Hamas and its partners, but there's also the ideological assault on the Jewish nation that is enduring through exactly the mechanism that you've said, through the media, through this ludicrous statement by the Secretary General of the UN, which is basically like saying that, the Holocaust didn't happen in a vacuum because, Jews were polluting humanity and Jews were using the blood of children to make matzahs. This is such a horrible statement. But we're seeing it all across. We're seeing it through, as you said, the attempt to create moral equivalency. But as before, the physical attempt to murder Jews is intertwined with the ideological assault on the Jewish nation. They're not, and they're independent. They're not coordinated, just like the Nazis' attempts or successful attempt to murder Jews was not necessarily coordinated with the anti-Semitism umbrella that existed throughout Europe at that time. And same here. We're enduring a two-pronged attacks. We have an attack on the Jewish nation through Hamas, and we have attack on the Jewish nation through elements of the media, to the United Nations, and through various international organizations.
Let's talk about some of the journalists in media. So, some of them must simply be ignorant of historical facts, and trying to do that journalism, present all sides of the stories and so forth. And yet others must know exactly what they're doing, and they're bringing forth a pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti-Semitic type of agenda. What do you see taking place more frequently?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's both of them. And some of the, you're absolutely correct. Some journalists told me, I'm too harsh on the media because they really don't know what's going on. We had, over 1,000 foreign journalists coming into Israel over the last 2 weeks, and they're new at this. And so they read off the talking points from Hamas, so they listen to what the other has to say. The ignorance is an excuse. But I think it's exactly as you pointed out, it's a much deeper issue. There is a culture of Israel bashing that is very well ingrained in the journalist circles that I'm part of. And for full disclosure, some of those journalists are friends of mine. And every time there's one of those rounds, I confront them. And I remember one conversation I had with one of prominent journalists here, a European journalist here, who said, look, that's what Europeans want to hear. Like I said, why did you report? This was when Trump opened the embassy in Jerusalem. And there was this orchestrated attack by Hamas that bears some similarities, by the way, to what happened now with Hamas terrorists storming the border. Many of them were killed, but a lot of those headlines were Israel kills, dozens of Palestinians and things along those lines. Later, some of those outlets apologized. But I said, this wasn't the case. So he said, first of all, it's not me who chooses the headline. It's the producers in Atlanta, the producers in London. But second, media is a business, and that's what Europeans want to hear. That's, he was European media. The Europeans want to hear Jews kill Palestinians. Just like in the past, if you imagine having a headline during the time that was the blood libels in England in the Middle Ages, a European child dies by the river. That's not a headline, but Jews murder European children and use their blood to make matzahs. That's a headline. So I guess the defense of journalism is that they're trying to, they're catering to the demand. And sadly, we have a reality that's existed century after century, particularly in Europe, but now elsewhere, of Jew hatred. But I think, Cheryl, this goes deeper than that, because Hamas, like you have to wonder, what was Hamas' strategy in the beginning? Like they do this atrocious attack, killing over 1,400 Jews in one day in the most horrific manners, burning them alive, beheading. I mean, they knew there was going to be a retaliation. So, what people think that the Hamas was counting on is exactly that. The media and the UN and international organizations going at Israel and saying, you're committing war crimes, you're committing crimes against humanity, you have to stop. So the media, those people that are creating this moral equivalence and doing all the, reporting in such a way are basically, inadvertently perhaps, cooperating with Hamas, because Hamas is dependent on the international pressure that exists through the media, through the slander against Israel, so Israel would stop its defensive operation.
Well, Gal, it may be inadvertent in some instances, but those journalists who do it inadvertently need some serious retraining, because in a war situation involving terrorists, there really is not very much room for missteps and mistakes. And one clear example of that was the bombing of the hospital that Hamas quickly turned into a narrative that it was Israeli aggression. And the media here in America, in many instances, I'm sad to say, ran with that narrative, even while burying somewhere in the story that it wasn't confirmed yet. So it seems to me like a slow roll until the facts are clear is warranted in a situation such as Hamas right now attacking Israel.
Absolutely. And, Cheryl, as I mentioned, I know those journalists. This was not an innocent journalist's mistake. The journalists here, the ones who just flew over and just want to read off Hamas's talking points because it's easy, fine. But the journalists who are here, they know that Israel does not bomb hospitals, and they know that over a third of the missiles are estimated that Hamas and Jihad launches lands in Gaza. By far more people in Gaza dies from those missiles than people in Israel. They know right from the beginning, they had indication, didn't know for sure, but there was indication right from the beginning that this wasn't Israel, that it was Islamic Jihad, and still they ran with that headline straight off the Hamas talking points. And this is inexcusable, and this is irreversible, because the damage has been done. You have tens, maybe hundreds of millions of people around the world now indoctrinating with the knowledge that the Jewish state kills Palestinian patients in hospitals, just like you had for many years the knowledge that Jews kill European babies to use them for matzah, so the Jews pollute the wells. So you can say, oh, we were balanced. We said Jews kill European children and make them use their blood for matzahs, according to German health officials, to the Nazis. The Jews deny it, like you said, in someplace in the headline, the Jews deny it, and that's balanced. This is when you talk about cycle of violence, this is happening in every cycle. We get attacked, we try to defend ourselves, and the media, those international organizations spread lies and slander against the Jewish state, and that in turn creates new violence. Because what would you do, Cheryl, if somebody told you that your Jewish neighbors is murdering your children to use blood, for matzahs? Or what would you do, if you were told that, as a fact, that the Jewish state murders Palestinians, commits war crimes against humanity? As we heard in the BBC a few weeks ago, happy to kill children. I mean, this is from the BBC. This is a credible source. This is even before the war. They interviewed Naftali Bennett, the prime minister, and the presenter. Said that the Israeli is happy to kill children, and that is not because we bombed something and there was ancillary damage. It's because terrorists that she herself agreed are shooting, try to kill Israelis. When we try to shoot back, some of those terrorists who are under 18. So that turned into Israel not just kills children, but love killing children. But that's the headline. That's the snippet that you hear. Nobody, around the world, not a lot of people have time to go deep into, do their own research. They see the headline, and we're indoctrinated. The world is indoctrinated with this false, slanderous, anti-Semitic knowledge that the Jewish state commits crimes against humanity and kills Palestinians, exactly as they were indoctrinated years ago with the knowledge that Jews kill European children.
So just to wrap up with two quick questions, Gal. So knowing this, right, and Israelis have known how terrorists work for forever now, that they use the media to slant the narratives, to support them, to feel sympathy for them. So knowing that now, what is Israel's best recourse to fight off this propaganda and to keep the eyes of the world favorable toward Israel?
Yeah, I think there is a short-term and a long-term solution. Long-term, I mean, it just so happened that 2 weeks before this war started, we had a Judaism 3.0 symposium about how anti-Zionism has become the new anti-Semitism, but is much more lethal than that. And what I'm arguing in my book, that Judaism is transforming and Zionism is becoming its anchor, I'm saying if you recognize it, if you accept that Zionism is the anchor of Judaism, then you can't hide behind this facade that you say, I love the Jews, but you hate the Zionists. But that's a long process of instilling this global consciousness that Judaism is transformed, and you cannot be an anti-Zionist. If you're an anti-Zionist, you're an anti-Semite, and that's people. Martin Luther King said that years ago. So there's a long-term sort of battle of the minds. But this also we have to recognize that this is to use the war analogy, it's not conflict resolution, it's conflict management. There are people around the world that, as horrible as it might sound, hate Jews, and they hate the most relevant aspect of Judaism at that time. That's what Theodor Herzl, the visionary of the Jewish state, identified. He, at his time, there was a new thing called anti-Semitism, because historically, the hate towards Jews was religious-based. And at the end of the 19th century, all of a sudden, Europe became secular. So people said there's no more Jew hatred. And if you think anti-Semitism is Jew hatred, then you're paranoid. And he understood that European Jew hatred that have since branched out to the United States and elsewhere is permanent and chronic. And that's why we need a Jewish state, not just to be a home and a safe home for all Jews, but also that, for people to see that the Jewish state will produce innovations that will advance humanity beyond belief. And this is exactly what's been happening. The Jewish state today, advances humanity. So we have to recognize that, we will have the situation in the media and international organizations for a long time. We can't change that. But let's just hope that, first of all, let's be grateful that we have the Jewish state. So we're not in the same defense situation of the Jewish people that we were in previous centuries and previous episodes of attacks on Judaism. But let's also recognize that the world needs the Jews. So you can attack us, you can slander us, but at the end, when it comes to getting cured for somebody of your family for cancer, or when it comes to having technological innovation, or when it comes to turning air into water so we can address famine around the world, you want the Jewish state, you want a prosperous Jewish state. Arabs recognize it. That's why we have the Abraham Accord. So maybe it's time for people in the media and international organization to recognize that the Jewish state advances humanity. Zionism advances humanity, and therefore anti-Zionism and Israel bashing is straight out anti-humanity.
Well, plenty in America stand by Israel's side and the Jewish people's side. And maybe this is unfair to ask you to sum this up in about 30 seconds, but that's all the time we have left. How are things in Israel? Where are you? How are things going for the Israelis?
Well, we're very sad, but we're very resolute and we're very united. We're seeing the best of Israel. Maybe our enemy got confused with a little family feud we had here over the last few months. But you're seeing so much mutual assurances, people opening their homes for evacuees from the south, everybody getting together to make sure the soldiers are well equipped, donating money, donating people from the United States, Jews and non-Jews, donating ambulances, donating all kinds of stuff. So we're seeing the best of Israel. And I'm always proud, Cheryl, to be Israeli and to be a Jew. But in this few weeks now, I'm extra proud to be Israeli and be a Jew, because we're seeing all the good that is happening, the strong expression of mutual assurances.
That's great to hear. Great news. Gol Kalev, thank you so much for being on Bold and Blunt, author of Judaism 3.0. Stay safe, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks.